Venom is still alive, and with his friend Eddie, will have to stop a serial killer who, on top of dating a girl with superpowers, has another symbiote much more powerful than Venom inside of him. That's why today on the Summarizer, Venom, Let There Be Carnage. The story begins at St. Estes Reform School in California in 1996, where we meet Cletus, a serial killer who's locked up with his girlfriend named Frances. But she has superpowers, and when he asks her what the doctor told her, she says that the mutations and powers are advancing, so she's afraid that they'll take her to another place where there are others like her. And she was right to be afraid, because at that very moment, even though Cletus gets furious, some guards take Frances away. On the way, she attacks the guards with her ability to manipulate sound, but this guy manages to shoot her. After that, she shows up at the hospital and is welcomed to her new home. Back in the present, Frances lives locked up in a mental institution for the criminally insane named Ravencroft, and there some doctors come in to feed her with precautions so she doesn't attack them with her superpower. And it seems every day they give her the newspaper where she follows the news of her boyfriend Cletus, who is imprisoned, and it's not yet known if he will be sentenced to death or not. Meanwhile, our protagonist Eddie Brock is still working as a journalist, and we learn that Cletus wants to talk to him. And as this may help them to know where the rest of the bodies are buried, the detective recommends that he goes. And even though at first Venom wants to eat the detective, Eddie manages to control him in the toilet, and after that he ends up saying he'll go. Later, Eddie goes to visit him in San Quentin prison, and there Cletus says that all he wants is to send a message to his fans, and in exchange for that, he's going to give him his life story. Because he's going to reveal all his secrets, and with that, his career as a journalist is going to be back on top. So Eddie accepts, and Cletus tells him the phrase he wants to get on the front page. That distant cathedral is all I see, fractures angel the other part of me.
What?
And even though we don't understand a damn thing about that phrase, Eddie manages to get it on the front page of the newspaper, and so his girlfriend Frances reads it. Oh, and before leaving, Venom tells Eddie to look at Cletus's drawings on the wall. Our protagonist doesn't understand shit either, and ends up leaving while Cletus tells him not to forget about him. Back at home, Venom starts copying all of Cletus's drawings. There, he draws a couple of things Eddie doesn't understand, but Venom tells him to pay attention. And after looking up a couple of things on the internet, they realize that one of the drawings is where the bodies that were missing were buried. So the police go, find a bunch of bodies, and start interviewing Eddie because he's the only person Cletus talks to. The detective gets angry because the investigation was done by a journalist and not by the police, and they also confirm the death penalty for Cletus. So the two of them are also quite angry too. At night, Venom tells him that they should start going out and catching criminals so he can eat them. He also tells him that he wants to be free and stuff like that. Plus, he's hungry and doesn't want to eat the chickens because they became his friends. At one point, the relationship is not going to last, and they go to look for food, but Mrs. Chen has no more chocolates. So even though Venom wants to eat human brains, Eddie takes him to eat chickens. At one point, they see a thief, and Venom goes to eat him, but Eddie doesn't let him and ends up throwing him in the trash. After that, his ex-girlfriend Anne calls him, and as Venom misses her, Eddie answers. There she tells him that she needed a little time after everything that happened in the first movie, that if you didn't watch the summary, I'll leave it up here, and finally asks him if they can get together to talk the next night. Eddie says yes, and Venom is thrilled.
It's over with the doctor! That is the voice of a woman who just got brutally dumped!
The next night, he goes to a restaurant, but the talk gets a little awkward.
Awkward.
There they talk about things that no one is interested in, and at one point she tells him that she wanted to meet and talk to him because she's about to get married. Apparently she's getting married to her new boyfriend Dan, and even though Eddie tells her he's happy for her, Venom is sadder than ever.
Yeah, I'm okay.
I am not okay.
After that, she finds him weird and asks if Venom is still inside him, but he says no, and that he died at the end of the first movie. Though after a while talking and telling him that he's not ready for commitments, she seems to realize that Venom is still there inside her ex-boyfriend. So she tells Venom to take care of Eddie, and after that, they leave super sad. After that, they ride around on a motorcycle for a while. Venom tells Eddie not to worry and that he's going to help him out of this one. And to relax a little, Venom does what he does best. He cooks for Eddie.
Catch up.
At one point, he grabs the mail and receives a letter from Cletus. There he tells him that he invites him to witness his execution and his last moments on Earth. He also tells him that he's responsible for causing the end of Cletus and that they're going to stop his heart like when he was born. But if he hadn't been revived that time, he'd have never killed his grandmother, his mother, and his dog. And so he'd never have been beaten by his father and sent to reform school where he met his girlfriend. So the next day, Eddie and Venom go to jail to visit Cletus. Eddie records the interview and Cletus talks to him about the consequences of the things that we do. He also tells him that the two of them are the same and that they are both family. Before he dies, he asks him if he wants anything, and the bad guy wishes him to live alone for the rest of his life just like him. There he starts telling him things to make Venom angry until he finally gets the symbiote to attack him and Cletus bites him. And there he realizes that Eddie has something inside that isn't blood. After that, Eddie and Venom get into an argument. Venom tells him that everything he achieved is thanks to him, but there they end up fighting and Venom wants to kick him out of the house by throwing all his stuff.
How dare you!
In the end, Venom ends up leaving, enters the body of another man who is in the street, and finally Eddie is free. But he starts to hear noises and sees that Venom broke his whole motorcycle, and finally also Venom passes into the body of a woman riding a bike. The next day is the death sentence of Cletus. He says his last words, and finally he's injected with the lethal dose. But something strange starts to happen. Carnage appears and kills the first cop, and after that he goes to look for the mayor, killing a lot of people who were just working. And after that, finally, Cletus escapes with his new symbiote named Carnage inside. The next day, Eddie already enjoys his life without Venom. He starts to fix his apartment, frees the chickens, and meanwhile, Venom walks around the city quietly. At night, Eddie sees on TV that the serial killer Cletus escaped, and then the detective appears and starts to doubt Eddie, but he tells him that he doesn't know anything, and in the end, the detective doesn't tell him anything and leaves. After that, Eddie starts listening to the recording of the last time he saw Cletus, but he doesn't understand a thing. Meanwhile, Venom keeps looking for a compatible body, so along the way, this guy dies too. He then moves on to the body of another man who luckily was at a costume party, so Venom gets unnoticed and everyone loves the costume. And meanwhile, Cletus and Carnage killed another person. After that, Cletus steals a car, gets talking to his symbiote, and since Carnage wants to kill Venom and Cletus wants to find his girlfriend, they decide to help each other. And on the way, for no reason, they throw a van over the bridge, so I guess they killed at least one person there. At the same time, Eddie keeps investigating and goes to the reform school of the beginning. There he calls a detective because he found the initials of the couple on a tree. He asks him if he knows a woman with the initials FB, and he tells him her name, but he also says that he was the one who killed her many years ago. Later, Cletus kills another guy. He surfs the web and there he discovers that Frances is alive, and meanwhile she's still locked up in her cell while the doctor tells her that her boyfriend escaped, but he'll never be able to find her in that place. Well, maybe he will.
Ta-da!
There, Cletus introduces her to Carnage, and together they smash the cell and escape. Oh, and while escaping, they kill 6 guards. After that, they escape in the car until at one point, Carnage starts attacking the cops, and the truth is, I don't think any of the cops that were inside died. The ones who die for sure are the 4 that were inside the helicopter when Frances uses her superpower. The problem is that Carnage is sensitive to sound, and so he tells her not to do it anymore, so the next helicopter is handled by him. After that, Venom arrives, almost dying, asking the Chinese woman for chocolate, so I guess the guy who wasn't compatible also died. After all this, the detective asks Eddie why strange things always happen around him, and at one point he says that the rest of the patients in the hospital said they saw a monster. So Eddie realizes that Cletus bit his hand that time and starts to understand everything. So he calls his ex-girlfriend, tells her that the serial killer also has an alien inside, and so now everyone has to find Venom. After that, she goes to look for him at the Chinese market and realizes that Venom is inside Mrs. Chen. So she ends up convincing him, and together they go to find Eddie. Meanwhile, Cletus sets on fire the reform school, and now they go to look for the detective who took Frances's eye, Venom, and Eddie. After that, she enters with Venom and takes him out of the police station. On the way, Venom and Eddie reconcile and they're friends again. The detectives cross paths with Carnage and Eddie and they kidnap him to take him to Frances. Then she enters Eddie's apartment and sees Anne's picture with the engagement ring, so now they go looking for her too. After a while she finds them, incapacitates her boyfriend, and tells him that Cletus wants to trade Eddie's head for hers, so she kidnaps her too. After that, Dan calls Eddie, tells him they kidnapped Anne and are going to the wedding. And if you're wondering what fucking wedding, I mean the one between Cletus and Frances because they kidnapped a priest and now they want to get married? I don't know. The point is that at one point Eddie shows up with Venom and it looks like he's gonna start fighting, but Venom is a little scared because Carnage is too powerful.
Let's go. Now, congratulations to the happy couple. We are leaving.
Anyway, in the end, Eddie convinces Venom, and it starts what we all expected, an endless fight between computer-created monsters. At one point, Frances is gonna kill the detective, but Carnage interrupts her to tell her to stop screaming. Oh, and he also takes the opportunity to eat the priest for no reason at all. Meanwhile, the detective escapes, Frances goes to look for him, and all our protagonists continue to fight. In the middle of the battle, we learn that Cletus hates Eddie because as a journalist, he never explained the reason for his evil, and neither he talked about when he was a boy and was abused by his family. Anyway, this doesn't matter much. What matters is the final fight between monsters and humans. After killing Carnage, Cletus's end comes, who before dying says that all he wanted was his friendship.
Fuck this guy.
After that, Anne leaves with her boyfriend and the police arrive at the place, I don't know to do what because they're all dead. Well, not all of them because apparently the detective...
Monsters. He's alive!
Finally, Eddie and Venom are still friends on the run and they go on vacation to a beach as Venom had asked. And the two of them are happy on a beach.
But wait! There's more!
Of course there's more, because in the post-credits scene, we see Eddie watching TV. There, Venom says that everyone has a hidden past, and he has 80 billion light years of knowledge, or something like that. The point is that there, he gives him a taste of the things that the symbiotes experienced. But right at that moment, something weird happens, and they're teleported to another place. Venom says he didn't do anything, and apparently this was all because of what Doctor Strange did, and now they're in Spider-Man's universe. That was Venom Let There Be Carnage. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment which movies or series you'd like me to summarize and make a kill count. See you later.
Gotta work. Okay. Bye.